Hi, these are my responses for Module 5, Poverty. For my first one, I think someone would buy the RTO's goods despite all the negatives because it is easier for many to give a small sum of money many times instead of a large amount all at once. Even more so with people living in poverty, to even be able to have nice things, buying from places like this is the only way. I feel like many people who are living in poverty do not have large savings or hundreds of dollars to give them all at once for something that is not a necessity. I know that for many to be able to have something nice for a cheap upfront price is a great deal in hindsight. Without RTOs, many people living in poverty would not be able to afford these items otherwise, and it is convenient/accessible in some ways, which can overrule the downsides that come with the purchase. Case mentions other industries that act in a similar manner to RTOs and is referred to as a layaway. Layaway gives people the opportunity at some stores to make payments with no interest tied to it. Companies such as Kmart, Sears, Big Lots, TJ Maxx, etc. all offer some form of this. This acts in the same way as an RTO would, but it excludes interest and is a better way to rent to own something as opposed to paying a lot more for the same thing at a different store. A similar business that has impacted me that came to mind is used car dealers. This situation was great at first. I was getting a car after going without one for 6 months, and it was cheaper than the price I was willing to spend. I paid for the car almost a year before someone hit me and totaled my car. Even with a down payment and paying on it for almost a year, there was barely a dent in getting it paid off. Once the insurance got a number on my car, it ended up being worth less than what I had left to pay off. Now today I'm still making payments for a car I no longer even have because the interest on the loan was so high. When this all happened, it had impacted me a lot, in many ways financially and mentally, but I am glad I learned sooner than later. For the second one, our reasons for pervasive poverty despite being the wealthiest nation are that us as a nation do nothing to take action. This is because many Americans typically sum up someone who is poor as due to their own faults instead of seeing the extenuating circumstances that could be at play. People think poverty only affects those who are doing things they shouldn't, and this has influenced society's attitude towards poverty drastically. It is viewed as their problem and many Americans try to stay out of the poor areas, further ignoring the bigger issue at play. By choosing to avoid this situation instead of acting on it, we are continuing to stereotype people living in poverty as something they brought on themselves when for many that is not the case. Rank mentions 3 major shifts we need to make as a nation pertaining to poverty. And the first one is thinking about the fact that poverty affects us all in some way. Rank goes further into this, explaining that by us ignoring poverty, we are spending our tax dollars and resources towards it, which is more expensive in the long term. The second one is recognizing that poverty is largely not the individual's fault, but shows the failure of our economic and political stance as a nation. Lastly mentioned is that we need to brainstorm what would be a proactive and realistic approach to tackling poverty. I recently found myself blaming someone for the poverty they were in. I used to work with this girl and she could not afford a car and would Uber everywhere. Everyone at work began to talk about it and judging her for not getting a car by now, as well as not being able to afford Ubers to work at times. She had multiple kids, and we all at times judged her for living situation and transportation. Everyone thought she was doing drugs, and that's where her money was, and many other ideas that all went right back to it's her fault she is poor. I do not know her full story, but not once did anyone ever try to ask her about how she got to this point or how life was like for her growing up. It saddens me that it is so normal for Americans to view hardships in this nation as something personal when many of us struggle financially too. I know I have struggled financially myself before and grown up with family that struggled at times, and even I am at fault of doing this. I do not know what led her to this situation, but I imagine it was more than just something she did. Thank you, and that's all.